Picture walking into your childhood home right now. Not the renovated version, not the modernized shell it might have become, but exactly as it was in 1965. The sounds, the smells, the features that made it work. There would be things in every room that your kids would not recognize, practical fixtures that solve problems in ways we have completely forgotten. Australian homes once had their own language, their own logic, with built-in features that shaped how families lived, cooked, cleaned, and survived the heat. Today we remember 10 strange home features that were once in every house but have vanished so completely that mentioning them now sounds like talking about ancient history. Walk into any Australian backyard in the 1950s and the 1960s and you would find it. The laundry copper. A massive cast iron or concrete tub set into brickwork with a firebox underneath. This was not some decorative garden feature. This was how you washed your clothes. Monday was wash day, and it started before dawn. Mum would be out there filling the copper with buckets of water from the tap, loading kindling and firewood into the chamber below, striking a match. Within an hour, the water would be boiling, steam rising into the cold morning air, and the real work began. Clothes went in sorted by colour and dirt level. Whites first, while the water was cleanest. You would stir them with a long wooden stick, prodding and turning, making sure everything got properly boiled. The smell was soap and smoke and steam all mixed together. It filled the backyard, drifted into neighbouring yards. Everyone knew what day it was just from that smell. After boiling, everything went through the wringer. 2 rollers you would hand crank, feeding wet clothes through to squeeze out the water. Dangerous work. Fingers got caught, buttons got crushed, but it got the job done. Then onto the line, heavy and dripping, to dry in the sun. The copper was not just functional, it was a gathering point. Neighbours would chat over the fence while their coppers bubbled away. Kids would be warned to stay clear of the fire, and when someone got sick, the copper boiled the sheets, the towels, anything that needed proper sterilising. By the late 1960s, automatic washing machines started appearing. Expensive at first, but gradually affordable. They sat inside, in a laundry room, and you just pressed a button. No fire, no steam, no stirring. The copper became redundant almost overnight. Most were demolished. Brickwork pulled down, the cast iron sold for scrap or left to rust in a corner of the yard. Today, if you find one, it is a garden planter or a heritage curiosity. But for the generation that used them, the copper represents something profound. The sheer physical labour that went into keeping a family clean. The patience, the skill, the acceptance that some tasks just took all day. The meat safe on the back veranda. Before refrigeration became common, Australian homes had meat safes, small wooden or metal cupboards with mesh sides, usually sitting on the back veranda where it was coolest. This is where you kept your perishables, meat, butter, milk, anything that would spoil in the heat. The design was simple but clever. The mesh allowed air to circulate while keeping flies out. You would hang meat on hooks inside, store butter in a dish, maybe keep yesterday's roast covered with a cloth. It was not cold storage. It was just cooler than leaving things on the kitchen bench. And in the days before every home had an icebox or fridge, it was the best you could do. The meat safe required constant vigilance. You would check it multiple times a day, especially in summer. Sniff the meat, look for spoilage, make sure the mesh was intact, because one tear meant flies would get in and ruin everything. You bought what you needed day by day because nothing lasted long. The butcher became a daily stop, not a weekly one. Kids were taught early. Do not leave the meat safe open. Do not touch the meat without washing your hands. Do not put warm food in there. It would spoil everything else. These were survival rules in a time before refrigeration made food storage effortless. By the 1950s, ice boxes became more common. You would have a block of ice delivered, slide it into the top compartment, and it would keep things cold for a few days. Then came electric refrigerators. Expensive but transformative. Suddenly, you could store food for a week. Shop once, stock up, stop worrying about whether the meat would last until dinner. The meat safes disappeared fast. Some were repurposed as storage cupboards, Others just rotted away on back verandas, forgotten. Today they are antiques, curiosities that younger generations stare at and ask what the hell that is. But for older Australians, the meat safe represents a time when keeping food fresh required thought, effort, and a bit of luck. When a hot day could mean dinner was ruined, when waste was not just inconvenient, it was genuinely costly. We have gained convenience, but we have lost the understanding of how fragile food preservation once was. The dunny at the end of the garden. Here is one that will make younger generations cringe. The outdoor toilet, the dunny, the thunderbox. Not connected to the sewerage, not even inside the house. A small wooden or brick structure stood at the far end of the backyard, reached by a path that felt endless in the middle of the night. Inside, a basic setup. A wooden bench with a hole cut in it, sitting over a removable can or a deep pit. Newspaper squares on a nail served as toilet paper. Maybe a candle or a kerosene lamp provided light. In summer, the smell was unbearable. In winter, the seat was freezing. And at night, especially as a kid, the walk to the dunny was terrifying. The dunny can man, or the night soil man, came once or twice a week, usually before dawn. He would open the small door at the back, remove the full can, replace it with an empty one, and cart the waste away. It was grim, unglamorous work, but essential. These blokes were part of the infrastructure that kept suburbs functioning before sewerage systems reached every street. Using the dunny was an experience. You would grab the torch, brace yourself, and make the trek. Spiders in the corners, sometimes a redback under the seat. The smell hit you before you even opened the door, and if it was raining, you would be soaked by the time you got back inside. It was inconvenient, unpleasant, and just how things were. Sewerage systems spread gradually through Australian suburbs from the 1920s onward, but many areas did not get connected until the 50s, the 60s, even the 70s in some places. When it finally arrived, the dunny was demolished or converted into a garden shed. The relief was profound. An indoor toilet that flushed with water, clean and private. Life changed overnight. Today, outdoor dunnies are heritage relics or quirky features in old country properties. But for those who use them daily, they are a reminder of how recent modern conveniences really are. The dunny was not just inconvenient, it was undignified, especially in bad weather or when you were unwell. And when it was gone, nobody missed it. The letter slot in the front door. Every front door had one. A horizontal slot cut into the wood or metal, usually about chest height, with a brass or metal flap on the outside. The postie would walk up, push your mail through, and it would clatter onto the floorboards inside. No letterbox at the fence, no mailbox on a pole, just a slot in the door. You would hear it every morning, that distinctive sound of envelopes hitting the floor. Mail arrived once a day, sometimes twice in the cities, and it was reliable. Bills, letters from relatives overseas, postcards, the occasional parcel wrapped in brown paper and string, everything came through that slot. The slot was part of the house's identity. Some were plain, functional, others were ornate, with decorative brass surrounds as part of the home's front entrance design. You would oil the hinge to stop it squeaking, polish the brass to keep it shiny. It was a small thing, but it mattered. Kids would wait by the door, listening for the postie's footsteps, hoping for something addressed to them. And when mail arrived, you would gather it up and sort through it at the kitchen table. Opening letters was an event, not a chore. But by the 1970s and the 1980s, things changed. Australia Post encouraged external letterboxes, citing efficiency. It was faster for posties to deliver to a box at the fence than walk up to every door. New homes were built without slots. Older homes had them sealed up, painted over, or replaced with modern locking boxes at the street. The letter slot disappeared, and with it, a small ritual. That moment of hearing the mail arrive, the immediacy of it landing inside your home, was gone. Now mail sits in a box at the fence until you remember to check it, often ignored for days. For older Australians, the letter slot represents something intimate. Mail was not junk. It was connection, news, something personal. And having it delivered directly into your home made it feel important. We have gained security maybe, but lost that sense of immediacy and care. The breakfast nook built into the kitchen. Open plan living wasn't always the norm. In post-war Australian homes, especially from the 1940s to the 60s, kitchens were separate, closed-off rooms. Many had a built-in breakfast nook, a small booth with bench seating and a fixed table tucked into a corner or along a wall. The nook was where the family ate breakfast and lunch, not the formal dining room which was for dinner and special occasions. The breakfast nook was casual, functional, part of the kitchen's workflow. Mum could be cooking while the kids ate their Weet Bix, everyone within arm's reach. The seating was usually vinyl-covered bench seats, sometimes with storage underneath for tablecloths, tea towels, whatever needed hiding. The table was laminate, easy to wipe down. The whole setup was efficient, designed to save space and keep the family together during the rush of morning routines. Kids did homework there, Mum wrote shopping lists, Dad read the paper with his tea. It was the informal heart of the house, the place where most daily life actually happened. Not fancy, not designed for guests, just real. But by the 1970s and 80s, tastes shifted. Open-plan kitchens became trendy, walls came down, breakfast nooks were ripped out and replaced with kitchen islands and bar stools. The separate, closed-off kitchen felt old-fashioned and dated. People wanted flow, connection, sightlines across the house. The breakfast nooks vanished, demolished during renovations, forgotten in newer builds. Today, they are a retro curiosity, occasionally preserved in unrenovated homes as a reminder of a different approach to family meals. For those who grew up with them, breakfast nooks represent a particular kind of intimacy. The family squashed together in a booth, close enough to pass the butter without getting up, chatting over cereal before school. It forced togetherness in a way that modern, sprawling kitchens do not. We've gained space, but maybe lost something in the proximity. The servery window between kitchen and dining room. Picture this, you are in the kitchen cooking dinner. The dining room is on the other side of the wall, but there is a window, a hatch between the two. You slide it open, pass plates through, and someone on the other side takes them to the table. No need to walk around, no doors to open, just a servery window. This was standard in Australian homes from the 1930s through to the 1960s. The kitchen was separate, a workspace, often hot and cramped. The dining room was where you ate, more formal, cooler. The servery window connected them efficiently. Mum would cook, load up plates, and slide them through the hatch. Kids or Dad would be on the other side, grabbing them and setting the table. It was a production line, and it worked. After the meal, dirty plates went back through the same way. Efficient, practical, and it kept cooking smells out of the dining area. Some servery windows were simple, just a square cut in the wall. Others were more elaborate, with decorative trim, built-in shelves, even small cupboards on either side. They became a design feature, a way to add character while maintaining separation between cooking and eating spaces. But as open-plan living took over, the servery window became obsolete. Why have a hatch when you can knock down the whole wall? Kitchens merged with dining rooms, then with living rooms. The barriers came down, and the servery window was sealed up, plastered over, forgotten. Occasionally you will spot one in an unrenovated home, still intact, a relic of a different layout philosophy. And when you do, it is a little jolt of recognition. That is how kitchens used to work. For older Australians, the servery window represents practicality and a particular social dynamic. The kitchen was Mum's domain, separate, where she controlled the chaos of cooking. The dining room was where the family came together. The window connected them without collapsing the boundary. We have gained openness, but maybe lost some of that defined structure. The sleepout on the back porch. Australian summers are brutal. Before air conditioning, before ceiling fans were common, you had to get creative about staying cool. One solution was the sleepout, a section of the back veranda, or sometimes the whole thing, enclosed with mesh screens. Not a proper room, just a breezy space where you would drag your bed on hot nights. The sleepout was part of life from the 1800s through to the 1960s. You would have a bed out there, maybe a small dresser, hooks on the wall for clothes. The mesh kept mosquitoes out but let air flow freely. On stifling nights, the sleepout was the only place you could breathe. Families would move bedrooms seasonally. In winter, you slept inside. In summer, you moved to the sleepout. Kids loved it. It felt like camping, like adventure. You would lie there listening to the sounds of the neighborhood, the crickets, the distant sound of someone's wireless, the relief of a breeze. But the sleepout had downsides. Privacy was minimal. Sound carried. If someone walked past your house, they could hear you snoring. And if the weather turned, if a storm rolled in, you would wake up soaked, scrambling to move your bed back inside. By the 1960s and the 1970s, AIR conditioning started appearing in Australian homes. Expensive at first, but gradually affordable. Suddenly you did not need to sleep on the veranda. You could stay inside, comfortable, cool, private. The sleepout became redundant. Most were enclosed properly, turned into bedrooms or storage rooms. The mesh was replaced with windows, walls went up, and the sleepout became just another room. Today, the concept sounds bizarre. Why would you sleep outside? But for older Australians, the sleepout represents resilience and adaptation. You worked with what you had. You could not control the heat, so you found ways to live with it. The sleepout was uncomfortable, sure, but it was better than suffocating inside. We have gained climate control, but lost that acceptance of seasonal rhythms, that willingness to adapt. The coal chute and fuel cellar. Before natural gas and electricity, many Australian homes heated water and cooked with solid fuel, coal, wood, or coke. And that fuel had to be stored somewhere. Enter the fuel cellar and the coal chute. The coal chute was a metal door built into the outside wall of the house, usually near the street. The coalman would pull up in his truck, open the chute, and shovel coal directly into the cellar below. You would hear the rumble as it tumbled down, filling the storage area. Dust would billow up, coating everything nearby. It was loud, messy, essential. The fuel cellar, usually under the house or in a corner of the basement, held enough coal to last weeks or months. Dark, dusty, often damp. You would go down there with a bucket, scoop out what you needed for the stove or the hot water system, haul it back upstairs. Kids hated the job. It was dirty, the cellar was creepy, and the coal dust got everywhere. But this was how homes functioned. The copper for washing clothes, the stove for cooking, the hot water system, all ran on solid fuel. You managed your supply carefully, ordered more when you were running low, rationed it during shortages. By the 1950s and the 1960s, gas and electricity became standard. Hot water systems went electric or gas. Stoves switched over. Suddenly, you did not need a cellar full of coal. The fuel deliveries stopped, the chute was sealed up, and the cellar was cleared out, repurposed for storage or left empty. Today, coal chutes are hidden, painted over or removed entirely. Most Australians under 50 would not recognise one. The fuel cellar, if it still exists, holds Christmas decorations or old furniture. For older generations, the coal chute and cellar represent a time when running a household required physical labour and planning. You could not just turn on the tap and get hot water. You had to maintain a fuel supply, haul buckets, manage a fire. It was work, constant work. We have gained convenience, but lost the understanding of how much effort once went into basic comforts. The incinerator in the backyard. Every Australian backyard once had an incinerator. A metal drum or a brick chimney stood in a back corner where you burned your rubbish. This was not optional. This was how you dealt with waste. Curbside rubbish collection was limited or non-existent in many areas until the 1960s and 70s. Councils might collect once a fortnight if you were lucky. Everything else, you burned. Paper, cardboard, food scraps wrapped in newspaper, anything flammable. You loaded it into the incinerator, struck a match, and let it burn. The smell was part of suburban life. That acrid, smoky smell of burning rubbish drifted across backyards on Saturday afternoons. Everyone did it. Nobody thought twice. You would see smoke rising from every second yard, neighbours burning their week's accumulation of waste. The incinerator itself was simple. The cheap version was a 44-gallon drum with holes punched in the sides for airflow. The fancier version was a brick structure with a chimney built to last. Either way, it did the job. You filled it, burned it, raked out the ashes, and started again. But burning rubbish had consequences. The smoke was toxic, full of chemicals from plastics, treated paper, whatever else people threw in. Ash would blow across yards, coating washing on the line, settling on vegetables in the garden. And fires sometimes got out of control, spreading to fences, sheds, even the bush. By the 1970s and 80s, councils expanded rubbish collection. Wheelie bins became standard, recycling programs started, and backyard burning was gradually banned in urban areas. Fire risk, air quality, public health, the reasons piled up. The incinerators were dismantled, metal drums were carted away, brick structures were knocked down. Today, burning rubbish is illegal in most suburbs. It is something that would get you fined. For older Australians, the backyard incinerator represents a time when waste management was your own problem. You dealt with it yourself, burning what you could, burying the rest. It was dirty, it was dangerous, but it was normal. We have gained cleaner air and safer neighbourhoods, but lost the visceral understanding of how much waste we actually produce. The rotary clothesline known as the Hills hoist was the centrepiece of the Australian backyard. Installed in 1945 by Lance Hill, it revolutionised laundry and became a cultural icon. Every house had one, and every family's life revolved around it. Monday was wash day, and the Hills hoist was essential. You would hang wet clothes on the lines, give the whole thing a spin, and watch your sheets, towels, and undies rotate in the breeze. The design was brilliant. Rotating arms meant you could hang everything without moving your feet. Height adjustment meant shorter people could reach. And when you were done, you would collapse it down out of the way. But the Hills hoist was more than functional. It was a social hub. Kids used it as a merry-go-round, grabbing the arms and spinning until they were dizzy. Teenagers practiced chin-ups on the frame. Families hung Christmas lights on it. Neighbours chatted over the fence while hanging washing side by side. The Hills hoist defined the rhythm of the week. On Monday, washing went up. By evening it came down, smelling of sunshine and fresh air. If rain threatened, there would be a mad dash to get everything inside. If you forgot and left it out overnight, it would be damp with dew by morning. By the 1990s and the 2000s, dryers became common, cheap to buy and convenient to use. Washing could be done any day, any time, with no waiting for weather. The Hills hoist became optional, then ornamental, and then often removed entirely during renovations. Today, many Australian backyards do not have one. If they do, it is often rusted, unused, a relic. Younger families use dryers exclusively, never experiencing the ritual of hanging washing, checking the sky, and racing to beat the rain. For older Australians, the Hills hoist represents a particular kind of domestic life. The discipline of wash day, the satisfaction of sun-dried sheets, and the community of neighbours all doing the same task. It was work, sure, but it was also connection to the weather, to the rhythm of the week, to the people around you. We have gained convenience, but lost that tangible link to nature and routine. 10 features, 10 memories, all vanished. Australian homes once spoke a different language. They had their own logic, their own solutions to problems we do not even think about anymore. These were not decorative touches or design choices. They were essential infrastructure, practical fixtures that determined how families cooked, cleaned, stayed cool, dealt with waste, and got through the week. The copper in the backyard meant Monday was wash day, no exceptions. The meat safe meant daily trips to the butcher because nothing kept long. The dunny at the end of the garden meant braving spiders and cold seats. The lettuce lot meant mail arrived with ceremony, clattering onto your floorboards. The breakfast nook meant families ate squashed together in vinyl booths. The servery window meant the kitchen and dining room stayed separate but connected. The sleepout meant summer nights were spent on screened verandas, listening to crickets. The coal chute meant hauling buckets of fuel from a dusty cellar. The incinerator meant Saturday afternoons smelled of burning rubbish. And the hills hoist meant wash day was a physical ritual, dependent on weather and timing. We have moved on. Washing machines replaced coppers, refrigerators replaced meat safes, indoor plumbing replaced outdoor dunnies, letterboxes replaced door slots, open-plan kitchens replaced breakfast nooks and servery windows, air conditioning replaced sleepouts, gas and electricity replaced coal, wheelie bins replaced incinerators, and dryers replaced the hills hoist. Life is easier now, cleaner, more convenient, more comfortable. Nobody is arguing we should go back to hauling coal or using outdoor toilets. Progress happened for good reasons. But something was lost in the trade. The physical connection to how homes actually worked, the effort that went into basic tasks, the routines that structured days and weeks, the acceptance that some things just took time and work. These features were not glamorous. They were often inconvenient, sometimes unpleasant, occasionally dangerous, but they were ours. They shaped how families lived, how neighborhoods functioned, how childhood felt. And they are so completely gone that mentioning them now sounds like ancient history, even though many people alive today used every single one. Remembering them is not just nostalgia, it is recognition. Recognition of how recent our modern comforts really are, how much has changed in just a generation or two, and how the houses we grew up in worked in ways that newer generations will never understand. So tell us, which of these do you remember? Which one shocked you the most? Which one would you never want back? And which one do you miss? Drop it in the comments, mate. This has been Retro Australia, where even the house had a story to tell.